Ron Hosko. Ron, thanks for joining us. Always good to see you. I know you've been talking to us throughout the evening here. Just a question for you. With just a couple of days away from the Republican convention there in Cleveland, and then the week after that, the Democrats in Philadelphia, what type of conversation is being had here in our country to sort of protect our people and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again? Because clearly, whenever there's a terrorist attack across the entire world, it has an impact on our security as well.
It does, and security officials, intelligence officials will be talking about this, what the indicators might have been, what was perhaps overheard in Europe, in other places where the U.S. and our allies collect intelligence. Are we hearing anything similar here? There will certainly be an exchange of information, probably already ongoing, between authorities over in France and the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, to see first, who was this person, what was around him, what did his network look like? Is there something that we can learn from this other than the obvious, which is a truck that is ubiquitous in America, that weighs several tons, can do a lot of damage against a civilian population with no other weapon, the truck as the weapon. So Cleveland authorities and the planners for that event and the one in Philadelphia have to look at this as having the potential to inspire somebody domestically with its ease, with the relative ease, you know, because moving trucks, transport vehicles like this are everywhere.
All right. And Ron, you know, to DeMarco's point, the question has to be asked, and it's one that we were asking Margaret Brennan, our State Department correspondent. There's clearly been a very heated rhetoric that has existed in this country over immigration, over the accepting of refugees. And that was the question that we were talking to Margaret about earlier, but also understanding who we are as a nation, our democratic ideals, our democratic principles, the idea that is represented by the Statue of Liberty here in New York City, that we will accept people who are suffering around the world. How do we balance those two realities? One that is true to our heritage and another that deals with the realities of today?
Yeah, I think part of the answer is in the intelligence. What do we know about those who we are inclined to accept? And we heard Director Comey talking about this earlier this year and last fall, about the risk of darkness out there, because some of these refugees, perhaps many of these refugees, are coming from places that the U.S. doesn't have a vibrant, robust relationship with. And even if we did, what is in their databases? Do they have a robust database themselves to share with us and help us make informed decisions about who might come in? And I think that's a real concern that a lot of Americans have, is, you know, kind of blindly accepting and embracing, and who among them might really pose a threat. And that's for the politicians to define and to determine. That is for policymakers to define and to determine. But I think there is a real risk to us if we don't do it smartly.
Ron, I want to just update our viewers now. It appears that the number of those dead, that number has climbed from 75 to 77. Again, now there are reports that 77 people are dead, more than 50 injured in this incident. Ron, going back to a number of things that you have talked about, how important is it for the U.S. to share this intelligence, the latest intelligence that's coming out of France there, and to act on it?
Right. It is critical for us to share it internally, and that means FBI, DHS with state and local law enforcement partners, so that everybody can make an informed decision. You know, what may appear as not too much of a threat in Atlanta, Georgia, may be a very high threat in Columbus, Ohio, or Cleveland, Ohio, or Philadelphia. And so it's important that we do it internally, and it's critical that we do it externally too. You know, the FBI plays a part in what's known as the Five Eyes, the partners, the key intelligence partners overseas. It involves Canada and Great Britain and New Zealand and Australia. And more, we have to expand our partnerships with these other countries that are also being pointed at by ISIS and attacked by ISIS. We've seen it in Bangladesh. We've seen it in France repeatedly, in Brussels. You know, all of Europe is a huge target because of the number of Europeans who have traveled in support of this proposed caliphate known as ISIS. And so with open borders, it is more critical than ever. And of course, we're always concerned about that going dark threat that is posed by encryption, the things that the FBI and the intelligence partners cannot see. If we can't see it and we don't have an intelligence feed on it, it's hard to act on it and surveil it and interdict it.
Ron, when I was based in Nigeria and I was on, sadly, the scene of many terrorist attacks by the Islamist group Boko Haram,
Right.
many occasions I would run into an FBI agent who was actually based in Nigeria, in some cases the capital Abuja or the commercial capital Lagos, and in my talkings and dealings with them, they would tell me that they were there to help the Nigerian authorities conduct the proper investigation. I wonder if that's the same situation in France. Not that they would be there to help French officials conduct an investigation, because I would think that they would know how to do that on their own, but perhaps if Americans are wounded or killed in these terrorist attacks, are there FBI agents already on the ground at our embassies and consulates in France, for example?
Yes, absolutely. We have representatives in Paris. We also have representatives at Interpol, which is in Lyon. And so those folks are already engaged. They were engaged yesterday, a month ago. They will be there tomorrow. The FBI has a very clear investigative interest where a U.S. citizen is victimized in one of these attacks. And so in those cases, there will be an investigation initiated here domestically in the appropriate field office. That coordination will go forward. The FBI will look to how do we locate, apprehend, and prosecute those people who attack U.S. citizens overseas. As you mentioned, you know, the French authorities, the Brits, others in Europe have very robust investigative capability, have very active intelligence services too. So it's a little bit easier for us in a location like that where we don't have to push forward laboratory resources or tactical resources or negotiators. They have that. But in places like you mentioned, in Nigeria, across Africa, those local authorities and state authorities are far less capable than the FBI. So we saw a big push for the East Africa bombings in 1998 because they just don't have it there. And fortunately, with relationships, they are willing to accept the effort that the FBI is able to push forward.
Ron, we've been actually showing some of the video to our viewers of the truck slowly approaching the crowd and then picking up speed and running over those spectators there. Also getting reports that the attacker was carrying guns and grenades. What do you make of that?
Well, first, you know, when I saw some images of the windshield of that vehicle, it did suggest that police were shooting at it. And, you know, here domestically, we do have these incidents typically with a car, often with a truck, though, where somebody falls asleep at the wheel, they have a medical emergency at the wheel, but not with the sort of carnage that is being seen in Nice. And so, you know, when you see this sort of damage, when somebody is accelerating, and certainly when there is, you know, the reports of weapons in the back, it certainly suggests that this attacker had a plan that exceeded just running people down and was going to get out and pursue an attack on other folks, or at least defend from one on police. So it is very, very concerning. Now, as always, the French will be looking at who else played a role, who knew, who aided and abetted, who was a facilitator, who helped get these weapons and these other tools of terrorism, and, you know, who rented the truck. They're going to look at it all. And for us in America, we want to know, how does it link to anything here domestically?